Tonight's lead story, of course, for us continues to be the white paper protests that have now spread, not just throughout China, but also the rest of the world is starting to see this because overseas Chinese citizens, students, people who are studying abroad in places as far as NYU, Columbia, Toronto, Tokyo, London, Berkeley, even Berkeley, they're rising up to protest against the CCP with the full knowledge that their families are still back home, full knowledge of what could happen to them. The tanks are rolling. The protests are spreading, and the president is drooling. So to take a look at this, I want to bring on Libby Emmons, who the post-millennial, your work over there, you've been tracking how this protest, how it started in China. It's now spreading across the entire world. We went in and did a full special episode on all of this yesterday to just explain the entire genesis of this, how it got to this point, how the issues with the CCP have brought them to this point. And the biggest thing for me, Libby, that I've got to point out is, yes, they're protesting the crackdowns when it comes to the COVID lockdowns, when it comes to the Xinjiang massacre. And that's what it was, a massacre in Xinjiang, this apartment building, the high rise, those horrific and tragic videos that we've seen. They're not just calling for an end to the measures. They're calling for an end to the CCP. Libby Emmons.
Yeah, I think that your coverage of this has been exceptional. I loved the pod yesterday that you did about this. And just watching these people fight for their freedom is inspiring. And also it's devastating to see how little attention the West, particularly the Biden administration, is paying to this. We saw John Kirby come out yesterday speaking to reporters from the White House, saying that the protesters are speaking for themselves, saying that they encourage peaceful protests. And as we were just looking at the footage that you played, these are not peaceful protests because the police are cracking down on these protesters. The protesters are standing out there. They have their white pieces of paper. They are denouncing censorship. They are denouncing the treatment they are receiving. And they are getting absolutely no support from the West, very similarly to what we saw in Hong Kong when the West just let the pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong get squashed by the CCP.
Well, that's right. And it was the outbreak of COVID and the COVID lockdown measures, which were used then to be able to crack down on those protests the same way that even in Biden's statements now, the White House's statement that came out over the weekend that said, well, we're not necessarily criticizing COVID policies because they're caught in a trap, right, Libby? Because they can't criticize lockdown measures because they've supported them in the United States. They still have COVID mandates over the military and much of the federal workforce. Some states still have lockdown policies. And then around the world, you had the truckers in Canada, you had the farmers in the Netherlands that they're still going after to this day, by the way. They're actually caught between a rock and a hard place because, as we outlined yesterday, this is a merger. This is a partnership between the CCP and Western elites, the Western financial markets. And by the way, Rishi Sunak over there is in the UK saying, oh, well, the golden era of our relations is over. Oh, shut up. Oh, stuff it. Do you really think that this means that this is a lover's squabble? What that is, that's a lover's squabble between elites, because the British elite, they want the West to be the ones who are in charge of the global financial and technological empire that they've constructed called globalism. They want to be in charge of the relationship. They want to be senior partner. They don't want to be junior partner. But that is where the CCP is trying to relegate them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And Rishi Sunak, we've seen his ideas. He has social credit ideas, too. His whole concept of the central digital currency that could be used to track people and limit their purchases here and there and control what people do. So it's not like his ideas are spectacularly different from what we're seeing in the CCP. The CCP just does it. They just come straight out and do it because they don't have to worry about squashing liberties because they've already stolen the freedoms of all of their citizens. So it's not particularly a big deal to them.
What does it mean that the students are protesting across, and in final minute, but just across even NYU and Columbia? You're in New York. What does it mean to see that there?
I think that we have an awful lot of international students from China in New York City. I went to Columbia University. I was very happy to see the kids getting out there and taking off their masks and putting them on this statue and speaking up for the Chinese people. I think that that's very important. I think these movements have to be global. We are a global culture at this point, and it behooves all of us to stand in solidarity. We see that as well with, a lot of causes in the US. They say, think about this globally. This one, I can't actually see the elites getting behind because it doesn't behoove them to do so. But I'm proud of the students for going out there and speaking their mind and, demanding rights for the people in China.
Well, prayers up for the Lao Baixing.
Yeah.
Prayers up, absolutely, for the Lao Baixing, the people of China. And